This is the team who is behind this workshop, and I think all the members except Steve Jenkins are present here in the room. Steve should be online. And we have been collaborating with some researchers in also putting together this workshop, and these folks from Concordia and Polytechnique Montreal has been helping us a lot in putting together the material for this workshop. Just want to acknowledge them. And some stats that I updated this morning. There's about 123 people registered for the workshop from 66 organizations, and we received 70 responses to the questionnaire that we put, the pre-event questionnaire. All right, so one of the most important goals of this workshop is to build a community of practitioners that are interested in these topics of rigor, agility in MBSE. And I realized this community kind of was fragmented, and I want just to bring them together so that we can, going forward, support each other and maybe build on each other work to move faster in the space. So today we are going just to review what has been already accomplished, what a lot of us are working on these days, and then we can discuss together how should we collaborate going forward. So this is just a quick slide about the agenda. You should be already familiar with this from the website. So it's almost the same from the website. A bit about the logistics of today. We are in room 18011 at JPL. There are some coffee, tea, refreshments will be provided in the breaks. You can find them in the back. Through this back door, there is a small area. You will see it to your right. And there is water too. There is also the other items, including the lunch for today. We will walk through the very nearby cafeteria where we can get that like around 11:15, like AM PST, and just for the bathrooms, there is the men's room is just down the hall, and the ladies' room is down this hall. But since we have to do this escorting here, whenever you need to use the bathroom, maybe we can I think Aaron can help you, can show you the place. Aaron. For the virtual venue, we have a Teams meeting, and I hope everybody who's online has already found their way in. Okay, so for the theme of this event, rigor and agility in MBSE, I just want to say a few words about these concepts. Rigor in the context of MBSE means we are ensuring precision and ensuring accuracy, working with standards. Rigor cannot be underestimated here, and we need to always make sure that the information that we author, and MBSE is an information-centric practice, are consistent and accurate and complete, and that whatever information that we author is always being subject to this process of validation and verification. And the agility here means we can still adapt to the specific needs of the projects that we're trying to help, that we can adapt to the user expectations, find issues quickly and address them quickly before they become bigger issues, and enable collaboration. So we think that two of the strategies to achieve rigor and agility are the use of semantic ontologies, which is another word of saying use models that have precise syntax and logical semantics, and then also use or borrow from software engineering the practices of DevOps, which allowed software engineers to enjoy a lot of benefits on their projects. Tested-driven development, for example, was born there. So we can, in our context, we can say analysis-driven MBSE, making smaller changes, peer reviews, and so forth, keeping a baseline. So I just wanted to highlight quickly what are the kind of concrete benefits that you would get from these two technologies. From semantic technologies, we know that we can have a unified representation that is not specific to tools. It's actually a way to allow interoperability between tools. It can give us a nice way to check the consistency of the information, thanks, for example, to reasoners that we can use. Ontologies are very extensible, so you don't have to be framed by only a particular vocabulary. There is a way to add extra vocabulary, for example, to address the unique needs of the project. You can make the information accessible, modular, all these benefits you get from semantic ontologies. From DevOps, you get the iterative nature of the development. You get the provenance of information that's always linked through these commits that you can do. You can have an analysis pipeline that's always there, checking what you're doing, and configuration management, version control, all of these things are there thanks to adoption of the DevOps practices. So we posed a questionnaire to you, and thank you a lot for providing a lot of responses. I just want to have a high-level overview of these responses. So to the question of where are you located? It's not surprising, given that the conference is mainly hosted at JPL and maybe in the West Coast, that a lot of respondents were from the US, but we have a lot of representation from Japan and Europe. In terms of what roles most of you play, there is a good representation of system engineers and also researchers. I've got a lot of graduate students who are investigating and approaches to help in this area of ontoMBSE. What industries do you support? Again, it's not very surprising that a lot of us support industries like space, aviation, defense, automotive. These tend to be the domains that benefit a lot from MBSE, but we also see other kind of domains like railway, pharma, construction, and other areas represented. In terms of the level of experience with MBSE, many of us have been working in this area for some time. Some, to a lesser degree, there are new people, but for the most part, there's people, at least in this context, when people answer MBSE, they're mostly thinking maybe SysML. But in general, MBSE is any use of models and rigor in the course of engineering. With regard to experience with semantic web in particular, since ontologies are kind of born there, we have a good split of experiences, all the way from experience more than 5 years all the way down says there's a lot of room to grow into this area. In terms of experiences with existing tools and methodologies, we of course see the biggest contribution is from UML SysML. These technologies have been there for over 20 years now. And of course, a lot of people familiar with the MVC would be familiar with them, but we also see, and of course, a spreadsheet is the other very famous tool that everybody's using. Beside that, there's good experience with the other analysis tools out there, simulation tools, and even tools like Python, for example, very popular. So in terms of what activities in MPC respondents were mostly in, you get a good range, but a lot of people are investigating, trying to look for approaches to improve their MPC practice. Some, of course, newcomers who just found out about MPC and they're trying to learn more. And there is a good distribution of people who have spent some time applying MPC and those who are still trying to find out which approach in MPC works best for them. In terms of the interest in the workshop itself, I think, again, you can see a good distribution from through all kinds of reasons why people are here. But I think a lot of people are interested in how ontologies exactly add to the picture of MBSE, how it will help the rigor. They're trying to understand some of the contributions that have been made already to date. For example, with projects like OpenCaesar and ontoUML and other projects that have already started this journey. A lot of people have interest in understanding how does this approach, how does it get applied in practice and how does it benefit the practitioners? In terms of the level of MBC experience in the organization itself, you can see that a lot of people have, or I guess some people have already started this journey some time ago, and they're trying to see how can we improve or where do we go from here. Some people are still newcomers to this area and they are still working their way through this, which is very expected. Okay, so there were also some open-ended questions in the questionnaire. So I tried kind of to summarize at a high level the main points that were made in response to these questions. So to the question of what MBC methodology people are currently using or familiar with, we get a lot of answers ranging from all these kind of methodologies you can see on in the gray box. They span mostly all the known methodologies out there. However, some people have said that they are not actually using a particular methodology. And some have said, oh, in fact, between us and our partners, there are multiple methodologies being applied. And that's kind of, both cases are kind of a problem. And in a lot of cases, people have said that we don't just take a methodology out of the box, but we customize it to suit the needs of the project. To the question of what's the scope of applying a methodology, as in, is it at a project level, program, or organization level? A lot of people said, for the most part, methodology is applied at the project level, project, product, process level, at the lower level, basically, because this is where you see a lot of uniqueness to the problem and that you need to address, respond to the needs at this level. However, there are people who are trying to elevate that methodology to apply it more uniformly across their organization, maybe across programs within their organizations. And they said that the more projects or products they help with MBC, the more they get a chance to refine their methodology. And a lot of people also said this idea of when we think about the scope of methodology as a hierarchy, we try to first define it maybe at the organization level, and then customize it at the program level, and customize it further at the project level. Although I think it will be first to try to help the project, and then generalize it more at the program level, and then generalize it more at the organization level. But the idea is, if you manage to do that successfully, then you can move faster in your engineering, and new project can have a good starting point. In terms of methodology customization, a lot of people agreed that this area is not well supported by tools. It's a bit hard and expensive to customize MBC methodologies today, and that whenever they do this, they try to take the like a lightweight approach to extending those methodologies. Like often this involves writing additional rules or using templates that you can get your users to do. That's kind of the way they approach customizing a methodology, and that because of this difficulty in doing this, they often engage a vendor of the tool to help them do these customizations for them. In response to the question about how do you deal with the multidisciplinary nature of an MBC methodology, the fact that you're developing systems that have a lot of facets to them, electrical, mechanical, and other things. Generally, people agreed that this idea of integration or multidisciplinary is not well solved yet. It's a problem, a recognized problem, and they don't seem to have a nice solution to that problem. They sometimes try to deal with this problem by, for example, using digital thread tools where they can establish explicit links between information that are presented in domain-specific tools. So you have your mechanical CAD, and then you can relate that to your requirements tool, and then to the electrical CAD tool by just establishing these links. And then people also try to tackle this by pushing the models from these tools into common repositories or have a common API, although that solves one small problem, that the format is consistent, but the main integration still remains that the ontologies behind this information, or the schemas, are not yet integrated. So having to do the links is just like one step towards that, but it's not complete. And a lot of people have hope that semantics can offer a good platform to do this integration between domains, but they recognize that this requires a lot of expertise to do, and also funding support. Sometimes that may or may not be available in their organizations. And they think the approach to this has to be incremental. So you have to start small, integrating maybe a couple of domains, and then when this works, you can add other domains over time. In terms of support for collaboration, how do they deal with that? They also said, for the most part, this is also a challenging area. It's not easily done, especially with the tools available today. This works more on in a small scale. So we have a small project, few number of people, but as you scale up and you want to bring more and more people to an MBC project, that becomes very challenging, especially also if you have partners from outside the organization. Also, people said that's very hard to do in an MBSE way. Especially, and they're focused on that, the fact that there is a lot of tools out there, they are siloed, and it's not, and there is also the boundaries between organizations that make this hard to do. So they hope that something like having a common model repository, a tooling infrastructure that makes collaboration easier, and agreeing on a methodology as a way to address this collaboration challenge. In terms of the question, how do you take information from the model and present it to your stakeholder for review? There was a lot of approaches mentioned. Some people said they actually show a model diff, like they do a diff on the model level, exactly how people are authoring it. Some people said we generate a spec or a document from the model and then we review that. Some people take screenshots of various areas of the diagram of the model, like diagrams or tables, and present that. Some people just generate some statistics, like so that they make sure they're making progress on the model. Few said we use analysis simulation capabilities to show that, and some said we use custom viewpoints, like we generate what exactly the user want, and we project that to them, and this is how they get reviewed. And that can include anything from human readable reports to Excel sheets to JSON documents and things like that. And to do this process of publishing information, a lot of them have to first push the model into a more accessible repository before they can generate these reports. With regard to the model change control process, so this is part of the DevOps agility. How can you have a baseline and then protect it and then do a peer review process for it? A lot of people say this is not their first concern at this point. They're just trying to figure out MBSE, and that's why they do it in this live model mode where anybody can just make a change and we don't really review. However, I would say that if you are getting serious about MBSE and working working in a big project, that becomes a bigger concern. Unfortunately, the capabilities of the tools of today does not make it easy to do this process of peer review. They make and even the practitioners to get into the discipline of change control by making branches and protecting them and do the peer review calls. And the ability, what do you show to your peer reviewers in that case? Do you show them views from the model or views from the reports that are a product of the model? There were split opinions about this, but a lot of people actually preferred the report view because it speaks more easily to the stakeholders of the project. In terms of model federation, this is the ability to split the model into modules and give it to various teams to work on. People recognize that this is a nice feature to have, but a lot do not have experience in actually doing this. So they said that when we do this, we drive it by a methodology. So the methodology dictates how do you federate. And we use a lot the digital thread tools to allow us to establish links between these federated models. And that there is some tools offering this feature called related project, i.e. you can load your dependencies and then create links from the model to their dependencies. And they use to evaluate the impact, they develop a process called impact analysis, where before you make a change, you can see how far this change will go. But overall, it's not something that a lot of organizations have a lot of experience with yet. With regard to how do you handle the fact that your methodology itself is evolving over time, sometime in the same span of the project, people said they usually negotiate this and with their users in order to when they make changes, and they prefer not to introduce any breaking changes. And at the end, when we said, what other challenges do you think exist for your MBC? A lot of people, especially the newcomers, mentioned training, lack of training. They wanted to make MBCE benefits clearer. They wanted to prove that the work we are going to incur to practice this rigor pays off. It's better than not using MBCE. They wanted to a clear ROI for the managers to make decisions of investing into MBCE, and they want ways to look at to share models among the community so that we can learn from each other. And finally, they asked for things like we want more semantics in our models, common API and extensibility. Some of these things have started to be addressed. So that was a quick overview of the survey, just to help kick off the rest of the day for us. Is there any question? I can take maybe one question at this point just before we move on. Any question from the room or online? Yeah.
So when you say MBSE Danish question. When you say MBSE methodology, do you include the tailoring of systems engineering that, or do you separate that from when you say, or when you ask the question? I was kind of wondering what.
Sure. So the question is, when we talk about MBSE methodology, do we also include the customization of that methodology?
No, systems engineering part. You know, when you say MBSE, there's
system engineering, right?
And systems engineering, we customize it, we tailor it.
Yeah.
The project, the organization, the target.
Right.
So when you say MBSE methodology, I was a little confused whether you're referring to a systems engineering tailoring, and then there's a model-based approach for that.
So I was referring to how you want to practice system engineering. Right. You practice it through a particular way. So if when you're using model-based approach to do this way, you have to define what this means in terms of vocabulary customization, viewpoint customization, be specific about analysis that support your methodology. So these things, these customizations that work for you will be included in your organization definition of MBSE.
Okay. So I think it's the system engineering tailoring is a part of it.
Yes. Okay. Correct.